Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and Jon Chai.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson, and it's a tactical day, as are all the days here on Chasing Poker Greatness nowadays. They're all tactical days. What up, John? How you doing, sir?
No other podcasts going on except for Tactical Tuesday anymore?
Not right now. Duncan is on hiatus. He should be back for Philosophical Friday at some point. I don't know exactly where the state of Philosophical Friday, but he'll be back probably sooner rather than later. And yeah, I'm still working on the interview, getting back in interview mode for the podcast. I've been in, full blown wolf mode for a year and a half, and really that's where all of my life force has been invested. So
that's good though,
yeah.
Because, I need your full attention, especially given how last week's episode went. I think it's pretty clear that I need help value betting, which is why I've brought in some more value bet spots today for Tactical Tuesday. And now that you're not in the podcast game as much as you used to be, hopefully you can help me.
I was just going to say, I have my eye on getting back more into the media game, like in the next
No. Fix
few months.
Fix me first.
You got 4 months or so. You better get your shit together before then, or it's over.
We'll have a jack and a deuce in this hand. Is that a good start to value betting?
It's a great start. I can't imagine a better start. You have a jack and a deuce. So let's just see what happens here. We had some technical issues with Hold'em Manager and converting the hands. I don't no idea, but they're in this poker tracker replayer here. So you got the jack deuce, button clicks it, small blind folds. I'm surprised that the small blind didn't 3-bet and you cold called, but here we are.
But
after last week,
cut off small blind 3-bets. I decided, hey, my jack and the deuce, not only are they the same color, but they're the same shape.
We'll
save that
after last week. Anything's possible. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's Wild West. But no. Button min clicks, you defend, getting 3.5 to 1. Everything's like totally hunky dory. And the flop is ace 10-5. So 2 diamonds. You have the jack deuce of diamonds, which gives you a flush draw, which means that
we're probably going to see a river.
Exactly. So you check. Villain sizes up, which is actually a pretty much expected size, I believe, these days on like ace 10x.
Yeah. Double Broadway, 2-tone board. Not surprised to see the 3/4.
Yep.
Hot c-bet.
And I guess first decision point here, call or raise. You're going to see a river, so that means that you can't see the river if you don't raise the flop, right?
Well, you can. It's just you might not be seeing it on the terms that you want to see the river. But yeah, generally, just my go-to thing with flush draws after defending the big blind is just going to be to check raise. I would be happier to check raise like a 1/3 size or a smaller c-bet, but my hand is still really, really good, or at least can become really, really good, and so still going to check raise the big size c-bet.
All right. So villain bets 32, check raise to 118. Villain defends, and voila, you turn a flush. Turn is a 7
really, really good.
Diamonds. Your hand becomes really, really good. There's 270 in the pot. Villain has 907 behind. I imagine now that you have a good hand that you're probably going to be betting the turn.
I do bet the turn. I think this is where I kind of wanted to start the conversation about value betting. What size are you going here once the flush completes and I suppose it doesn't particularly matter exactly like what hand we have, but like, do you do something different when sizing, based on whether you have a flush or whether you're still bluffing this flush completing turn?
Sizing is interesting. So on the flush completer, typically you have fewer low equity hands in your range, which generally trends sizing down with your flushes. I could see you betting half. I could see you betting a third. Probably not bigger than that. And probably just jamming rivers, that are not unfavorable.
Sure. Okay.
Even if you bet half or a third.
That's what I said too. I guess like just to kind of explain why you're suggesting kind of trending the turn size to be smaller, I think is just, our the biggest region of our low equity check raise range, our flush draws just got there. So when when the obvious big draw in the flop completes, we have fewer bluffs on the turn. I think the only bluffs I would have at this point are like maybe some like club hands that check raise the flop, like maybe a hand like 8-9 of clubs or Jack 9 of clubs or something like that. I might not even check raise those hands actually, given that the button decided to go with the big size. So I might actually just get to this turn in real life with like no low equity hands, and the worst hand
Maybe
I have
like
now is like
king,
two
queen.
pair.
King queen with queen of diamonds, or queen
Yeah,
jack,
something
with
like
the
that. Yeah,
queen
yeah,
of diamonds,
yeah,
or
that
jack
could
of
be there.
diamonds. Yeah, like offsuit gut shot, which I think is a hand that totally makes sense in your check raise range, and it especially makes sense because it's a low equity hand that can bet on a flush.
I probably would have 3-bet king queen pre-flop, so I don't even know if I have that. But basically what I'm saying is like, look, I don't have very many bluffs here, and when I'm in a spot where I don't have very many bluffs, I need to incentivize my opponent to call somehow, and one of the ways to do that is by sizing down. So I bet a third on the river, on the turn, which is one of the sizes you suggested. And you talked about jamming not unfavorable rivers. Yep. The river pairs the board. So we started out with the ace 10-5, 2 diamond flop. Turn was the 7 of diamonds. River is the 7 of hearts. So our hand is still good, but definitely just got brought down a notch with the board pairing on the river. Are you still jamming here? Do you think this is too thin? What hands are we trying to get called by? What worse hands are we trying to get called by when we jam here? Flushes.
I mean, flushes are worse hands that can call, and they will have flushes. I think that the 7 is going to be like the least threatening of all the board pairing rivers. An ace is clearly much worse. A 10 is clearly worse, and I think a 5 is also worse because a 5 completes ace 5. So the 7, it promotes aces, 10s, and 5s, potentially ace 7. But yeah, I think like I'm not even sure ace 7 like chooses the big size on the flop, honestly. But I'm of mixed opinion here on the board pairing river. I think that you could obviously bet big. I don't think your hand is too thin to value bet. I guess like that's the first thing. I think you could jam and it's got to be just fine. Like it can't be the end of the world. What I'm really thinking about is whether jam is my go-to here or small bet would be my go-to here. The small bet I think works pretty well in giving villain an opportunity to jam with worse hands, such as like king 10 with the king of diamonds, or queen 10 with the queen of diamonds, or 10 of diamonds.
Those hands big bet?
I don't know. That's a good point. I don't think those hands do.
Maybe like
so
king queen with the king of diamonds.
King queen with the king of diamonds.
Yeah, king jack with the king. Those types of hands.
Yeah. Ace 5. Ace 5 is
ace 5 is a good one. Yeah.
Hand that it's not going to call a jam, but would jam. that makes a lot of sense. Possibly like, I guess ace king and ace queen, kind of an interesting. Those are interesting hands that probably end up calling and not turning themselves into a bluff as often, like calling the small bet. But I don't know. I don't think they called a big bet either. Like
Ace king, ace queen.
Yeah,
That's what I'm worried about. Is that like, like this board pairing river, scary in the sense, not in the sense that like, our hand is, significantly downgraded. I don't think that's the case. That's basically what you said. We still have a hand that can still comfortably value jam the river. It's just that now that I'm not sure what range I'm targeting to call. If the board didn't pair on the river, we could reasonably target all the sets in two pairs. Now we're just targeting like ace 10 exactly, maybe, and ace. I don't even know what we're targeting. Like worse flushes and like ace 10. I don't even know like what ace 10 is. Like what ace 10 thinks if I jam the river. Like, is that any different from ace 5? Like it's not really.
No. I mean, yeah, I think like ace king, ace 10, ace deuce are all effectively the same hand. From villain's perspective when you jam the river. Like I think they're all just the same hand, which means that like basically the secondary consideration if all of those hands are the same would be like what is the kicker and what like properties would they be looking for in calling the river with their other card, like some kind of
diamond.
I mean, do they want a diamond or do they not want a diamond? Like, because the majority of your bluffs are going to come from like single diamond hands, right?
Yeah, sure.
King, queen, queen, jack. Yeah. So like if they have the king of diamonds, then that just rules out king, jack with the king of diamonds. So I don't think that's necessarily like great either. I'm really torn here. This is a tough situation. I probably size down and call a jam.
Size small enough where a flush will jam, and obviously hopefully some counterfeited two pairs or whatever, some bluffs will jam.
I don't know that a flush will jam.
I don't think a flush ever jams.
Like
right?
I don't think a flush jams, but like, man,
like a flush looks at the small bet and thinks the same thing that we're thinking now. It's like, okay, I could jam. Like, I'm pretty sure I have the best hand, but what is going to call me if I jam an 8 high flush on the river facing the small bet? So I'm just going to call. And then that just feels disastrous, right? Like the flushes just call because they think that we're not going to call a jam with a worse hand. And then the boats just jam every time we bet small.
Yep, that is not great.
So we just have to like grit our teeth and jam?
Yeah, it seems like I'm landing on just like gritting our teeth and jamming. Let me think about exploring the check option. I think out of hand it seems not great, but I do want to think about it. Like a flush is always going to value bet. All their bluff catcher aces though probably don't value bet. They don't have a ton of bluffs, I don't think. King, queen with the king of diamonds. King, queen with the queen of diamonds.
Jack, queen, jack.
Yeah. You have the jack of diamonds, which ain't great. Those bluffs, though, actually, I think check rules those out because, like, if you small bet, those would also be candidates that could jam. So, like, just betting small is going to be better than checking, I think. So, leads me back to the beginning here of either betting small or betting big.
So is betting small and getting jammed on by their boats and risking just getting called by their flushes worth them jamming their bluffs is the question that we're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard to know. Because we don't even know if they jam their bluffs facing the small size.
How often do flushes raise the turn facing a third? That's another like interesting part of this, that like if they do have, like 8-9 of diamonds, like does that raise the turn one? Do they raise the turn 1/3 at any frequency? Probably not, but they probably raise their better flushes at some frequency, I would think.
But that doesn't
like
matter because we're
king and queen high. Well, it does. It matters in the sense that like if you jam, if we can reduce the amount of nut flushes they have, that can only be like good for us.
Okay.
Screw it. I'm gonna land on jam and
hope they find something to call with.
Hope they find something to call with. Yeah,
that's what I did too. That's why I brought this hand in because I had no idea what to do on the river. I was like, I don't know what I'm targeting, but like betting small, like it feels like I'm setting up the optional 2-bet game that we talk about pretty frequently, and that doesn't seem good. Like I'm just gonna grit my teeth and stick in the 1.5x pot.
Yeah, like I thought about like pot or 70% pot as well, but then like I'm also terrified of like I don't know if I can fold because they actually have like some decent candidates to bluff with, like the aforementioned ace-5, probably ace-10.
Holy shit! You think if I pot the river, they're gonna jam a bluff?
Okay, 70%. If you 70%, I think they could.
Yeah, maybe. It'd still be a click.
It would be, but that's what makes it such a good bluff.
Dude, you don't know how many times I've said that to myself, and they just snap with a flush.
Yes. All right. Let's see the result because tough. Oh baby, you jam and they called. We don't know the result yet. Did we win? I don't know. Did we win? We won.
It doesn't get shown. Oh, sorry. We did win. Villain called with ace-9 with the 9 of diamonds.
Nice jam.
Well, I guess the jam is okay then.
Sweet Mother Mary. Ace-9 with the 9 of diamonds, huh? Woo. Okay. I see you, Button.
You know what was really funny was like I jammed and obviously he had ace-9, so he went into the tank. And he's tanking, and I'm still thinking like I don't know if I feel I don't like usually when you jam like a finished value hand and they start tanking, you as the time goes down, you're like okay I feel better. I did not feel better as like time went down. I was like he could just be tanking with the queen of diamond, queen eye flush. And it looked the
Little
same.
did you know I think if this villain had the queen high flush, there would be no tanking. The ace-9 call, yeah. Well, okay. So that's hand number 1. Do we want to do 2 hands before the break or one hand before the break?
We need a minute.
Yeah, we need to take a break, collect ourselves, breathe a little bit. Stick around. We'll have more thin value bet opportunities coming right at you.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right. Welcome back from the break. I hope that these next 2 value betting spots are easier than the first one because I almost timed out of YouTube. Let's see. Hand number 1 after the break. You got a king and a queen of different suits. King of clubs, queen of spades.
Tactical Tuesday special hand.
Yep. You open
3-bet to a weird size.
Yeah, the big blind 3-bets to 80, which is like 3x, which is, as you said, a small size. They bet half pot here on the flop, and The flop is king, queen, 8, rainbow, so you flop top 2. I did not ask you whether villain was, white belt or black belt. I imagine that villain is white belt here.
Purple.
Purple?
Yeah.
Yeah? You think regish?
This was the only weird thing that I'd seen him do in the whole session. That 3-bet. Everything up to there, like I saw that 3-bet and I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that from this guy. Like, is he trying to do something with the size down? Like that was my first thought, and I don't know. I gave him a purple tag actually, just to like keep an eye out.
Yeah, let's keep an eye out. What's this guy doing? I mean, it's nice. Before we go deeper into the hand, if this hand does go to showdown, because like it will reveal something about our opponent in how they're constructing their strategy. But that is a weird size for them to kind of use out of the blue. The typical size is something like 110, 120.
Yep.
Sometimes 130 from the big blind. So yeah, it's weird. And then they also choose like weird post flop size too. Right? This is like
I think it's
55.
half pot plus 1 big blind.
Yeah.
There's probably 164. Or sorry, 162, and in the pot minus rake, and he probably bet half pot plus 1.
Okay. And you're convinced this is purple belt. I'm gonna believe you, but I'm thinking might be white belt. Okay.
What do you think about raising the flop? Not raising the flop. I think that's like worthy of discussion. He bets 91 into 165, just a little bit over half pot. Like we said, we have top 2. Definitely a hand that is good enough to raise. I decided to flat. I thought that we could comfortably get stacks in, anyways, once he starts with a big bet. I think if he had started with a third, then I definitely would have raised, given that he 3-bet smaller and he's small betting the flop. And, we probably need to do something a little bit extra to facilitate getting all the money in. I decided not to raise facing the bigger size. I don't know if you would raise. I think there are lots of hands that we could target with a raise. Aces, ace king, ace jack, ace 10, jack 10. I don't think any of those hands are going to fold.
So in theory, you probably will have raises here because you do have like bottom set, which is going to be a hand that you'll raise with. Maybe not versus the big bet. I personally, I would call with king queen.
Okay,
because we block top and bottom pair, which and as you mentioned, like we can get the Saxon downstream, so no real like catastrophic things that can happen. Sure. I think by the river. So like to me, I would just call and simplify and just say like a lot of my value here is going to come from when villain has like ace jack, jack 10, ace 10, and just kind of goes bananas on a board that is like quite good for them relative to us.
Yep.
So turn is an ace, which is an interesting card.
So I'm actually like really hoping they don't bet this turn, because I would just start feeling really bad about flops top 2 if I face the big bet on this turn. Which is pretty crazy to say. It's like like on the flop, I'm like, wow, this is great. I can't wait to see what happens on the turn. And then the ace of clubs, I'm like, oh shit, this is actually terrible. Now they have like lots of better top 2, plus the open ender gets there. The obvious front door draw, jack 10 gets there. I'm sure they would 3-bet that and c-bet the flop.
Yep. And aces gets there.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping they somehow find a check.
I think that they might check, but I don't think they probably should check most of anything. This card is like, as you said, like a card that makes your flop top 2 feel like death, probably going to mean that card is much better for the villain than us. Like, so I imagine like villains probably should be betting this card often, but I could also see a world where they check it too often with, some of their ace 10, ace jack type hands.
Yep. So that's what I'm hoping he has. He does check, and now I'm hoping he has some sort of like ace jack, ace 10, something that, maybe turn top pair was semi bluffing the flop. Planning on just going for value. I actually want to talk about just the whole value betting sizing scheme and the plan on the turn right now. Like, kind of what are you thinking about on the turn when you're thinking about value sizing for the turn, and then like just plans for the river? Because I think the turn sizing has a big effect on the river plan.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing is like, are you planning on kind of taking this as a 2-street hand? And like, is there a way to do that?
It's so wacky. Like, I wouldn't bet super big. I think that in just as in the last hand that we talked about, when the flush completes, like here, the ace has a dramatic effect on like the weak hands in your range. Like you just have very few weak hands in your range now. Like in order to have like low equity hands, you need to be betting like
Jack 9.
Jack 9, probably like your 8x. 7-8 of spades, 7-8 of diamonds.
9-10.
9-10. Those are you have very few hands that are like nothing or very low equity on the turn. So I don't think you can go big. You went half pot. That feels like it might be too big. I'm not really thinking about stacks because like at this point, like I'm not sure that I want to play for stacks, and
I do not want to play for stacks.
Yeah, like the dynamic of this situation has just like changed dramatically based on the turn card. So like I would not be like thinking about playing for stacks. I'd be thinking about like, okay, like what size makes sense for my range in this situation. A third seems to make a lot of sense. I'd probably land on that and then play rivers accordingly, and probably be looking to bet small on bricks.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking, okay, so I had like a very similar 2-street plan. Like my plan was just to like bet something on the turn and then bet the river small on bricks, probably a third, maybe like a quarter or something like that. Just targeting like ace jack and ace 10, maybe ace 5 of diamonds, ace 5 of spades, ace 5 of hearts, like those sorts of hands, right?
Yeah.
I thought that I could get away with betting bigger on the turn, like half potting the turn and just like being like, hey, like I dare you to fold ace jack or ace 10 when you turn top pair and you still likely have a gutter or something like that on the turn. And like, yeah, I'm going to size down on the river, like to make sure, I'm not just value cutting myself every single time I do this, but I think I can get away with a bigger turn bet because I don't think you're going to fold turn top pair with a gut shot.
You know what's interesting?
Even though you know that my range is still probably too strong.
I think you're right. What's interesting here, I don't know what the river is. I haven't seen this hand, but on a jack or a 10, actually, you would have an option to turn your hand into a bluff or check behind. And king queen might be like the best hand that you have to turn into a bluff on like a jack or a 10. Like Anyway, just like as kind of food for thought on like the 4-liner run out of a jack or a 10, ace, king, queen, jack, or ace, king, queen, 10, like 2 pair is like getting to the point of like, oh, this may be now like one of the worst hands in my range. Anyway.
Yeah, still going to have jack 10 and 9-10, jack 9.
That's true, but
some of those
jack 10 is a straight.
Oh, sorry, not jack 10. Yeah.
Jack 9.
Jack 9 and 9-10.
So, jack 9 and 9-10. Those are like the 2, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, yeah.
We do get the brick river. Final board.
We get the brick river.
King, queen, 8, ace, 6, no flush available. He checks 691 in the middle, and we have to decide on value sizing, whether or not we even want to value bet. I sort of spilled the beans on the previous street that I was planning on going really small and targeting ace jack, ace 10, ace 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think there's no reason to not bet small and target those hands. Potentially could target like something that like a spew call from like King Jack or King 10 2, and if that's feels sticky. Yeah, so you bet a third. I hope they don't jam. Just
No, he called and I was like, wow, nice, I win.
uh-oh. Ace King? Ace King makes sense. Wow, what a little B word.
In his defense, what do I call with when he checked jams?
I don't know, but you don't have any better hand. I don't know what you call with, but I don't think you've got a straight, and I don't think you've got a set of eights. So, whatever.
Okay.
I mean,
sorry, Ace King guy. I tried to help you out.
Ace King, it makes sense. It's a hand that beats you, and I think it probably should jam the river for value. But
yeah. I thought that was my reaction too when he just called. I was like, oh wow, I thought that hand would jam.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I think that the hand was played well though.
Nice.
All right, so final hand, Queen 5 of diamonds.
It's going to be a blind versus blind battle. Me versus a reg.
Yeah.
I make it 30. Queen 5 diamonds calls. Queen 9 7 2 clubs, no diamonds. So I flop top pair, weak kicker. Just going to be doing a lot of checking out of position, 2-bet pots, and top pair weak kicker is definitely going to be in my checking range. So that's what I go ahead and do. Big blind checks back. Turn is the 7 of hearts. So now there are 2 flush draws, hearts and clubs. The 7 pairs on the turn.
Yep.
Okay, so my value plan here was to go for 2 big streets with a queen. Obviously going to be value cutting myself versus better queens, although I don't know how many there are now that we share the 9 as a kicker. And then versus the 7x, which I expect, most of their 7x to check back most of their naked 7x to check back the flop, so they still definitely have trips on the turn. But can still get called by 9x, can still get called by like, I don't know, maybe some sort of 10, even if he does decide to check back a hand like ace or king 10, or maybe that's a little bit of a stretch.
Probably.
Yeah.
But you can get called by like an underpair that
sure
we'll call a bet now.
8s, 6s, 5s, yeah. I think.
I mean, 8s is probably 3-betting.
Yeah, 8's probably 3-betting. Yeah. But anyways, lots of bluffs for us to rep on, extremely dynamic 2 flush draw board. So I pot the turn. And I'm going to guess that you're going to say that on the turn by itself, potting is no big deal, no problem. A lot of other sizes we could go, but I sort of picked the greedy one. I'm kind of pushing the boundaries of value betting here. And then the river is the 10 of hearts, which completes the backdoor flush draw. Completes a couple straights. So the final board is 7, 9, queen, 7, 10, 3 hearts. And I follow through. And I don't bet huge. I think I bet 70, or I hope I bet 70. Once one of the major draws completes, and handful of straight draws also get there. Gonna be sizing down a little bit. Was planning on going bigger though on bricks. Would have probably like potted a brick. But size down to 70 here. What do you think about like the plan starting on the turn basically?
Coach Brad approved.
Coach Brad, wow. 3 for 3. We turned it around in a week. We went from horrendous value betting to acceptable value betting.
You went from black belt of suckiness to playing well. Well done. I think that everything you said is on point, and I just am a big fan of everything. Even your camera work there. Well done. Just see you've been taking lessons. Look at it. Look at him go. Look at John there.
Got it.
It's beautiful. Well done. And for the podcast listener, sorry you didn't get to see that excellent work that John just exhibited.
Tune into YouTube if you want to see my ceiling.
Subscribe to YouTube if you want to see what we're talking about. Can't really even describe it. It was so majestic. I agree with everything you said. Like I think that it is thin, but it's blind versus blind. It's loose formation. Like, you don't have a ton of bluffs, but villains tend to be fairly sticky blind versus blind. You've got a hand that, wants to play for 2 streets. So, yeah, I think it's all good. I think that, like, a lot of their bluff catchers, if you check, they just check behind, and, they're just going to check behind with their bluff catchers. So, like, you miss out on value versus those. Obviously, when they have better hands, like, Queen X of hearts or something, that, like, if they check behind, they turn a flush draw. They're going to bet those for value. So it's a situation where, like, you just have to bet in order to be able to place a bet versus all of their weaker hands. And I don't really expect to get raised, like, ever, I think. I would be shocked if you got raised, honestly. Like, seems like it would have to be something like a boat. Like, maybe they can raise a flush, but man, like, even raising a flush here is, like, pretty scary. Once, the board's paired and you big bet twice as the pre-flop raiser. So, yeah, I think it's just a good plan, well executed, well done.
Cool. That's good to hear. Because this is, even a few weeks ago or like a month ago, this is not something that I would have done. So glad to see I'm getting better at it.
And
oh wait, I'm not.
And villain had a 7. Well done, John. Well done. Well, as we said, I think it was last week. I never know. The weeks run together. If you aren't value betting and getting called by better hands ever, then you're probably not value betting thinly enough. So congratulations. You value bet thinly enough. By the way, this is like the exact hand type that, like, if you check, they're definitely going to bet, right? Like, if they have, like, 8-9 or 9-10, they're definitely going to check back, those type of hands. So, like, you've got to place a bet to get called by their bluff catchers. Yep. I guess alternatively, you could just check fold the river. That's the other option. But, yeah, we don't have to go too deeply into that. I think actually check folding the river might be a reasonable option, but I don't know. That's not really.
Wow. Check fold. He could value bet a 10.
My God. Now you're living in La La Land. Like, that's.
Bluff catching episode coming up soon.
You're living in space, kid. There's no value bet a 10. Get out of here. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode on value betting. Once again, well done, John.
See you
I
next
got
week.
nothing left. Yeah. See you next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter @CPG Podcast.